All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Prosperity for Your Soul. Um, my name is Kampamba Mavluki. Please invite someone via the link or via the chat and just let them know. Everyone watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, good morning. I hope you're having a great day and a great start to the month of December. Mhm. People think it's the end of the year, but it's actually just the beginning and a continuation. So what usually happens at this time of the year is people begin to wind down, go on industrial break, and wait until January comes around. But that shouldn't be the case. We talk about finishing the year strong. We want to finish the year strong so that we start the year strong. And people who help us in this journey are usually mentors. But as mentees, we also have a responsibility and a duty. What usually happens as mentees is we think the mentor will come and carry us and do what we need to do on our behalf. And all we do is sit down and just claim that we have a mentor. So last time, for those of you who record, I spoke about doing life with your mentor. And I think I'll continue in the same breath or in the same direction today, speaking about the importance of the mentee taking responsibility. And I'll use a story we all know, which is, we may or may not know, which is Jesus feeding the 5,000, and you find it in Mark chapter 6. And there are a few things that struck me when I read the story again, because we often just look at the miracle of him blessing the food and the food multiplying and the crowd being fed. But that being said, there's some very important elements about mentorship and being a good mentee and the mentee who takes initiative, because the mentee also has a responsibility and a duty to execute and do what that which they need to do. So as we're at the end of the year, we begin to reflect and look back on what we have done or what we have achieved in the year and what we're set out to do. What often happens between January and March, a lot of people start off with a mentor and they're excited and they tell the mentor all the things they want to do and all the things they want to achieve. But also in the back of their minds, they're thinking the mentor will be there every time to look out for me. The mentor will be there to tell me what to do. But sometimes we also need to do something. So we find Jesus as the mentor and his disciples, and there's been a crowd. So what usually happens is we all are part of the crowd until we decide to separate ourselves from the crowd and be in close proximity with the mentor. So at that point, the 12 were the mentees, and Jesus was the mentor, and there was a crowd. But something interesting happens, and we notice them saying, can you chase the crowd away so that they can go and find food to eat? But the response that comes to them is, you give them something to eat. So we usually go to the mentor and explain the problems we have to our mentor, the issues we're facing, the issues that need solving in our lives, and what we need to do. And then the mentor will answer you and tell you, you go and do ABC, you go and do this, you go and do that. So for mentorship to be effective, for mentorship to work, it requires you to do something also. There's an action. You go and do something. You go and implement it. You go and do the work. We often don't want to do the work because we've seen the mentor's life and we've seen how successful the mentor has been and all the things they've achieved. And we think just by being in proximity with them or by them being our mentor, these things will come to us automatically. But that's not the case. We also have something to do. You go and give them something to eat. So, as a mentee who's being mentored, you also have people you mentor, you also have people who look up to you. So, you don't expect your mentor to now mentor you and to mentor the other people in your life. The reason you have a mentor is because the mentor is explaining to you what you need to do and expects you to do so that the other people in your life and the other issues and the other areas in your life that are affected by you being an effective mentee and doing that which the mentor has asked you to do will make you an effective mentee and, in essence, a mentor to others also. We have a mentor for two reasons. The first reason is one, the mentor is helping you get your life together. But the other reason is so that when you get your life together, you have a positive impact and you affect the other areas of your life and the other people in your life. So these areas could be your finances, it could be your marriage, it could be your children, it could be your career, it could be your business, it could be your goals. But all these things require action. So when your mentor gives you a checklist, that's why the mentor usually asks, what are you trying to achieve or what are you trying to do? So in this case, the mentees are faced with a situation where there's a multitude. They've been part of the program too, and they've been benefiting from the program. And now they go to the mentor and say, boss, can you tell these people to go so that we can remain with you? And the mentor says, no. This whole time and this whole period I've been mentoring you is so that you can solve problems and you can come up with solutions. One of the reasons we exist, one of the reasons we are good at what we do, of the giftings we have, is to solve problems. And so every now and then, there comes a time when the mentor asks you to do some problem solving. And problem solving is a very, very important part of the mentorship journey. If you're not solving problems, you're not an effective mentee. And if your mentor is not asking you to solve problems, the mentorship is not effective. Now, I was reading a story about buffaloes and cows. Of course, they come from the same family or the same lineage as animals, but they are very, very, very different. So when there's a storm, cows begin to run away from the storm. They start moving away from it, and buffaloes move towards where the storm is. Now, this struck me because you see, when you're running away from the storm, it will eventually catch up with you. And when it catches up with you, it wipe you out. The other side of looking at it is you see when the buffaloes run towards the storm, once they go through it and get to the other side, that's it. The storm has passed and they've gone through it. So in the same way, when your mentor tells you, you go, you go and do something or you go and give them something, in essence, what the mentor is telling you is you need to solve problems and you need to go through certain processes. And these processes can only be achieved through experience. So your mentor, of course, has experience, but for them to tell you that you go and do ABC or you go and do this, one, they've seen the abilities you have, they've seen your skill set, and they've seen the giftings you have. So they know that giving you a little push or throwing you into the deep end to swim is what is necessary for you to develop and go to the next level. So as we wrap up the year, what are the things that your mentor told you to do that you haven't done? What are the things that your mentor told you to do that you've done? Now, I'm not saying that you didn't do what the mentor told you to do, but there are certain things that you should have done that didn't do, and the certain things that you should have done that you did. And when you look at this analogy, it tells them to go. They think to themselves and say, yeah, but we require resources and we require money. Now, the thing about resources is when your mentor tells you to do something, when you think about resources, the first thing you think of is money. But money, yes, is a component and a resource. But then he asks them, how many loaves do you have? What do you have? And that is always a question we grapple with as mentees. And when your mentor asks you, what do you have? They're not necessarily talking about the fiscal aspect or the monetary aspect. The other things you have. What what problems are you solving? What are you doing with the gifts that you have? What are you doing with what is around you? A practical example is you may not have the money, but they may be things you may have that could impact or that could make a change. So when your mentor is asking you, how many loaves do you have? They may be asking you, okay, Do you have some flour at home? Do you have some oil? Do you have an oven? Is there things you can make? Is there things you can bake? Is there things you can turn into money? There's an example I always like to give when a lady goes to Miles Monroe and asks him, um, I've lost my job. I don't have any money. And he says to her, "Do you have a stove at home?" She says, "Yes, I have a stove at home." And he asks her, "How many times do you use the stove a day?" She says, "Maybe once or twice a day to cook meals." And he says, "Okay, I want you to go and bake some scones in your oven and then take them to your workplace where I used to work and sell them." Within a month, 2 months, she had made so much money. She went back to him, gave him some money to say thank you. She had bought another stove and a business crew. So sometimes we look at resources as just money, but we neglect to look at what we have around. So we need to be intentional when we go to a mentor for advice and explain to them what the situation is, but also explain to them in such a way that they're able to help us unfold and get those resources that we need, or use the resources that we have to get to where we want to be. Now, what usually happens towards the end of the year at this time is, one, there's end of year fatigue, but there's also the notion that you need to live your best life in December. What usually comes after December is January. There's school fees, there's rent. The bills don't stop. The bills don't stop in 2025 just because 2024 has ended and you had a great time during Christmas. Now's the time for you, as you end the year, to evaluate what decisions you need to make, how many loaves you have, how many loaves you need in 2025, and start figuring out ways and strategies to not only finish the year strong, but that strength to tide you over into January, which is usually a very slow month for businesses, a slow month for finances generally. So it's prudent for you to do what Jesus told the disciples, which is to gather the resources that you have now, to gather what you have left now, and use that to carry you over into January. And I always give this example and always like telling people, you see, when January comes, that's not when you know that you have to pay school fees for a child. That's not when you know that you have to pay bills. You've known this all along. So a good head start is to usually start now in December when you get that bonus. For those of you who get a bonus, for those of you who get that extra money, or yeah, you get extra money through gifts. You may get a bonus at work, but you will get something at the end of December. That's not money for you now to go splurge and to go live your best life. Living your best life is important, rest is important, eating good is important, but you also have to think of the year coming ahead and the month of January coming ahead. So, as a good mentee, go back to your mentor, um, tell them the successes and the losses, present to them what resources you have, and strategize and see the best way forward. A mentor always has your best interests at heart, and part of having your best interests at heart is requiring you to do something and to be proactive and to execute that which you need to execute. So as we wrap up the end of the year, as we come towards the end of the year, now it's time to reflect and strategize and gather and see how many loaves you have left. Something very interesting happens at the end of this story of the of the 5,000 and them being fed. And this is what I'll conclude with. So once everyone had eaten, there were leftovers that were left. And Jesus instructs them and says, "Take up the baskets and go and gather all the fragments." Now, one thing we do towards the end of the year is waste what is left, or waste what we have. Being wasteful is not a good thing, because those are the same resources you will need on the other side in January 2025. So those extra coins, those extra notes, gather those and save them. You'll be amazed and surprised at just how much money you save and just how much money you have left. And the reason he tells them to gather the fragments is because, one, it's not good to be wasteful, but two, there's something very important we learn about resources here also. When they gathered, each one of the 12 were able to fill their baskets. They were able to fill their baskets. So what you have left now in December, or what you have in December, may seem very insignificant, or may seem very small, or may not seem that much. But when you gather it and put it together, it comes up to a lot. So the three things we've spoken about is one, being intentional about mentorship. Two, being proactive and following through what you discussed with your mentor, what you're supposed to do. And three, is being prudent with your resources and being cautious of the resources you have around you. As I said earlier, we look at resources as money, we look at resources as liquid cash, but there are other resources around you. There's things you can do, and there's problems you can solve. It doesn't mean the mentor doesn't love you. It doesn't mean the mentor doesn't have answers. It doesn't mean that the mentor doesn't have solutions. But you require to experience certain things. It is a requirement for you as a mentee to experience life. That's why Dr. Nellie always likes saying, let's do life together. Together means there's a part the mentor is doing and there's a part the mentee is playing. So now is not the time to fold your arms. Now is not the time to relax. Now is not the time to throw that money in the air. Not even close. Now is the time for you to really reflect, to really strategize. Also, what usually happens is towards the end of the year, a lot of the people in the crowd have dispersed. A lot of people started the mentorship journey, have fallen off along the way. So you as a mentee also have an advantage because at this point, everyone's relaxing, everyone's chilling, everyone's living their best life. But you as a mentee are wise and go to your mentor and ask them, what can I do different? What can I do to strategize? And speaking of mentorship and speaking of mentees, there's a number of POD events coming up. One of them includes finishing the year strong. There's a dinner for mental health. These are all events designed for you to network and interact with other people and see what other resources are out there and what other things can help you towards the end of the year. And as I finish the call, there's also another call to action. There's always a program on this channel, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. On Mondays, Reverend Walker comes on and he gives a lot of business insight. Um, Dr. Mwansa is on Tuesdays, educating people on various things. Also, on Wednesdays is a day when you can showcase what products or services you offer. On Thursdays, we have Prosperity for Your Soul with Dr. Nellie. And on Fridays, we talk issues of health. Health is wealth, and health is very important. And that's the other thing that will add extra juice to ending the year strong and starting January strong. Remember to exercise, to stay fit, and eat healthy. You need your health more than anything. If your health is not intact, you won't be able to do half the things that you need to do. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, POD have fitness classes in the morning and in the evening. It's a suggestion. You may want to exercise and stay healthy. So remember, being a good mentee requires you to be proactive. Being a good mentee requires you to be action oriented and take action and responsibility for the things that you're doing. And as you end the year, take stock. Even I personally didn't achieve everything I set off to do on my list, but I've done at least 80% of the things I set off to do. So the other 20%, the onus is on me. I also reaching out to my mentor and my other mentors to see the best way forward. But I encourage you not to be discouraged when your mentor asks you to do something because it's not impossible. And you have the ability to do it when they ask you to do it because they know you as a mentee and they know that you're capable of doing it. We usually look ourselves and say, but we only have 5 loaves, we only have 2 fish. Yes, you only have 5 loaves and 2 fish, but the reason you have a mentor is because the mentor will now teach you how to multiply, but they'll also teach you the responsibility of how to be prudent with your resources and how to gather resources. So mentorship, as I always like to say, is a holistic process. It's not just a physical process, it's not just a spiritual process, and it's not just a process in the mind. It encompasses all three, and all three areas need to be taken care of. So, whatever you do towards the end of the year, remember that we're going into January, remember that we're going into a new year. You want to start the new year on your best foot, not in January, but now. Now is the time to start strategizing for the next year. Now is the time to start putting the resources in place. Now is the time to start giving yourself a head start above everyone else. Of course, some people respond with emails saying, let's pick it up in January. Others respond with texts saying, let's pick it up in January. Your response is, okay, if we're picking it up in January, what can I do now to prepare for January? Is there anything you require me to do? Is there anything you need me to do? Is there any research I can do? There's something Dr. Nellie always says that always catches me, and I always like learning. And she says, whenever I go into a place or I'm asked to speak on a forum, I always do research and I always read up on it. And when I go, I'm equipped and know something that other people don't know about the subject we're discussing or what we're talking about. So get that head start on 2025. Start researching, start gathering your resources, start working towards a new year with a great start. In January, it's very easy to join the wave and say, new year, new me. This is my list for the year. I'm going to be great. I'm going to sign up the gym. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to save money. Now's the time to start looking at those things. And one last thing before I go, um, there's the issue of people talking about looking for a job or being employed or starting an enterprise. What I always advise is in December, a lot of people quit their jobs. A lot of people, well, for some reason, go looking for greener pastures. Now's the time for you to apply if you're looking to go into the job market, but try a different strategy. Try applying as a volunteer instead of applying for a job. Everyone's applying for a job, but when you apply as a volunteer and tell them the skills you have and the sort of things you can do, they are more likely to be taken up, but you're more likely in the long run to actually gain the employment you want or be where you want to be. Again, it comes with being proactive and saying, okay, I have 5 loaves and I have 2 fish. How can we make these 5 loaves and 2 fish multiply? Whatever, whatever you want to do, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's with your kids, whether it's your career, it requires you to take action and it requires you to turn the 5 loaves and the 2 fish into 5,000. It's a process, but it requires you to start now. Don't wait for January 1st. Don't wait for the second week of January when everyone else is reporting to office from the festivities to start. Start now. Send out that email. Find out what can I do between now and January when we revert. What can I do between now and then? Also, as I always say, keep your mentor in the loop. Your mentor is not a psychic, they're not a witch doctor, they're not a mind reader. They won't guess what's on your mind and they won't guess what you're trying to do and achieve. So now is the time to reach out to them, let them know where you are, let them know how much fish you have, let them know how much bread you have, so that you can strategize together and they can help you. This has been Prosperity for Your Soul. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. And remember, tomorrow, Friday, health issues, health issues will be on, and there'll be a discussion on how you can best improve your health. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been Kampambama Bluki, a member of PLD, and also a mentee of Dr. Nellie, a very proud mentee of Dr. Nellie. And we shall see you next Thursday on Prosperity for Your Soul. Bye.